What is up guys, it's your boy Solam here, back with another Classic WoW Season of Discovery video. Now, Season of Discovery is actually coming out tomorrow at this point, and with it we're getting a bunch of new class runes, class abilities, even like small class changes as well that really will alter the class meta of the game itself and make some small adjustments to every single class. In today's video I want to take a look, a further deep dive into this aspect and talk about some more adjustments, some more abilities that we might be seeing later down the line in Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4, maybe even Phase 5, like all of the future phases basically of Season of Discovery. And to do this we can just take a look at which ability they have already put into the game through the runes we already have, and take a look at the expansions, where they are coming from. They're obviously taking a bunch of inspiration from both TBC, Wrath, and even Mists of Pandaria and Cataclysm when it comes to the abilities they're bringing in to the game itself, and they have even like made some brand new abilities as well, but some of them even stem from things like Legion, right? We even had Lone Wolf back then. I think that was a thing in Warlords as well, but Warlords and Legion, it's basically a bunch of things that are dragged from expansions into Classic WoW in the season right here. And today once again I want to build on this class fantasy and just talk a little bit about this and show off some really cool abilities that I really think we should have at some point in Season of Discovery. Now there's going to be 11 brand new abilities that I could think of here, and there's going to be a bunch more, so if you have any more suggestions let me know in the comments down below. Let's just nerd out a little bit here, and yeah, let me know your suggestions in the comments down below. The first one that I want to talk about is Vampiric Touch. It's no doubt that Shadow Priest, they have gotten some changes. They have a brand new Plague, for example, in Season of Discovery, but they're still really struggling with mana, and I feel like Vampiric Touch will help them both on DPS and on mana. Just look at this. Causes X amount of shadow damage over 15 seconds to your target, and causes up to 10 party or raid members to gain 1% of their maximum mana per 5 seconds when you deal damage from Mind Blast. In addition, if Vampiric Touch is dispelled, it will cause X amount of damage to the afflicted target as well. It's basically you're now functioning as a mana battery, not just to yourself, but to up to 10 people. In this case, Season of Discovery has 10-person raids, so it would just make so much sense to bring this in, because once again, Shadow Priests already still struggle with mana, and yes, you do have Ret Paladins that will fill this a little bit through the Seal of Martyrdom, but now imagine having a Ret Paladin and a Shadow Priest. Suddenly nobody's gonna have any mana issues, or at least in theory, nobody should have mana issues at that point, so I feel like this one should really be there at some point. The next one is Titan's Grip. I have no idea when it would make sense to have this, with maybe like level 60 or something for warriors. I just feel like Titan's Grip has always been such a fun ability to me, being able to use two two-handers, and imagine in this case you have the legendary from Molten Core, and dual wielding that with something like Ashkandi, or anything else. Like, just think of two of the most insane weapons you can use and dual wield them together. Even if you both get the Hand of Ragnaros and you get Thunder Fury, even though that's a one-hander, that's still two legendaries, and that would be absolutely amazing just from having the ability to use two two-handers, right? So Titan's Grip to me is something that could be cool. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below, but I really think it would be, and it would just make some spice to the warrior class, and I always thought Titan's Grip was a really cool ability, and the sooner we get this the better it would be, but it could kind of be a little bit overpowered at level 40 for example, so we'll have to wait and see, but I think that could be a really good addition to the class abilities we already have. And then we have Starfall. I think if you're playing a druid, like, you still are lacking some damage. You can use Hurricane, you can use Wrath, you can use Starfire, but we all want Starfall, right? Starfall is one of our signature abilities, and here's the thing. I went on Wowhead, searched up Starfall from Classic WoW's Wowhead, and it says right here, requires Druid, requires level 25. I don't know if that's a hint, but it could really be a hint, that being a level 25 ability in Season of Discovery, who knows, but Starfall would be massive. Inflicts X amount of arcane damage to all enemies in selected area every 2 seconds for 10 seconds, right? I feel like Starfall should definitely be there at some point. Will it be in Phase 1? I don't know, but because it says requires level 25 here, I'm kind of hopeful, but at the same time, if it's not there in Phase 1, please be there in Phase 2 or Phase 3. Next up we have Shadow Dance, and I'll make this one a little a little bit bigger for you guys. So here we go, enters the Shadow Dance for 6 seconds, allowing the use of Sap, Garrot, Ambush, Cheap Shot, Pre-Med, Pickpocket and Disarm Trap, regardless of being stealthed. Basically, you can use abilities that requires stealth while not being in stealth, and it lasts for 6 seconds and has a 1 minute cooldown. This ability right here would by itself make Subtlety be a lot more competitive. If you're playing Classic WoW right now as a rogue, you'll pretty much only have one competitive spec for the most part, that is regular combat. You do have certain cases with Perdition's Blade from Molten Core, right, where you can go ambush spec or backstab spec, but Shadow Dance would really bring Subtlety to that competitive level and compete against combat, because now you're not just a backstab rogue, but you can actually use ambush for 6 seconds every 1 minute, which might not sound massive, but it really is. And then what if you just get this Shadow Dance, right, as a regular ability in, let's say, phase 2, and they give you a rune as well, which doubles the duration of Shadow Dance itself. So now you have a baseline 6-second Shadow Dance, and you have a rune increasing it to 12 seconds. Suddenly, Subtlety is going to be a lot more competitive, and it offers a new playstyle for rogues, which I think it would be great. And for one more that I want to show you guys is Seed of Corruption. This one is probably me being a little bit egoistic because I'm playing a Warlock. I would love to see Seed of Corruption. Now, no doubt, it's kind of overpowered for AoE, and Warlocks already have a bunch of AoE. We have Rain of Fire, which now has the Lake of Fire rune, and yeah, we have a bunch of stuff we can already use, right? We even have Hellfire, so we have a bunch of AoE from before. But all of that is fire AoE. If you're playing Affliction, you probably don't want to use fire AoE. Seal of Corruption would be more in your area. You deal shadow damage, right? It would just give Affliction Warlocks a way to deal AoE damage as well, and a bunch of classes already have really good AoE. So I feel like bringing this one in would just bring more flavor to the Warlock class. Wouldn't really be overpowered by any means, because once again, mages already have Ignite, and they also have like, what is it called? They have Living Bomb already in phase 1. That's just them. Even Boomkins, if they get Starfall, they would have Starfall and Hurricane, right? A bunch of AoE abilities, and I feel like Warlocks should get this one at some point. Probably not in phase 1, shouldn't be there in phase 1. Maybe not even phase 2 either, but let's say phase 3, phase 4. Could be a good ability to add. Next up, we have another Warlock ability. This one is called Malefic Grasp, and throughout World of Warcraft there's been several ways of having Malefic Grasp. It used to be like a slash or like a instant attack on enemies that would deal more damage the more damage over times you had on the target. It also used to be a channel by itself, so you channeled an ability called Malefic Grasp that dealt AoE channeled damage, and how much you dealt would also be, once again, increased by damage over time effects on the target. But I really like this one, because this one is really simple and deals damage. So while channeling Drain Soul, your damage over time effects deals 20% increased damage to that target. So basically, in this case, you're playing Affliction, you're just doing massive damage over time effects, and instead of spamming Shadow Bolts or anything else to deal extra damage, you literally just use Drain Soul. You just keep Drain Soul active to deal even more damage over times, which once again are your primary ways of dealing damage as Affliction anyway, so I feel like this one would just play more into that class fantasy. We also have Heroism, and not just Heroism, but Heroism for both Alliance and for Horde. Of course, in phase 1 of Season of Discovery, we learned that Hordes are getting access to Paladin buffs, and as Alliance we're also getting access to Shaman totems, Wind Fury for the most part, but every single totem we have access to in some way, shape or form. So in this case, I also would like to see Heroism being added to both factions. So Shamans get them, but probably either Paladins also get them, or some other class in the middle would get something. Like imagine if Mages got Alter Time, for example. That used to be a thing back in the past. So we could get Mages with Alter Time, and that would work as Heroism, because once again, you want to have it on both factions. Now next up, I've been playing a bunch of Wrath lately, and I would really love to see how Feral Spirit would work in Vanilla WoW, and like an improved version as well, because on servers like Turtle WoW we do have Feral Spirit, and I would like to see Feral Spirits work the way they currently do in Wrath, because in Wrath they deal about, when I pop them on a boss fight, they end up dealing about 15 to 20% of my damage on that boss fight. Exactly how much they deal depends a little bit on your gear on the shaman, but for me I'm terribly bad geared, so for me they deal a bunch of damage, and I just feel like it would be such a good addition to have more cooldowns. Enhancement Shaman do deserve some love after all, they're not really the best DPS class, and even with this I don't think they would ever be the best DPS class. You primarily bring them for their totems and utility and stuff, but giving them the ability to actually have decent DPS I feel like is good, and giving them more cooldowns as well would just make them more playable. We also of course have Bladestorm. We can't really talk about warriors without mentioning Bladestorm, and for me Bladestorm is such a cool ability that I really want to have this one available and work the way it's been working in other expansions, right? So Bladestorm at level 40, 50, 60, you name it. Just a massive warrior Bladestorm, and I feel like this should be a arms talent, and Titan's Grip that we talked about earlier should be a Fury talent. You could maybe have them as class runes as well, that way imagine if you could use both Titan's Grip and Bladestorm. How insane would that be? Two two-handers with Bladestorm, just being a massive warrior doing that massive Bladestorm. That could be such a cool idea, but once again it could be a little bit overpowered, so maybe you would have to choose. Maybe it's going to be like a cloak rune or something where you have to pick one massive ability, and then you have Bladestorm, Titan's Grip, or something cool for protection, right? Then you have something called Blood Talons. This is from I believe this one is from Legion, don't quote me on this, it's from WoW Wiki, but when you use 3 different combo point generating abilities for Feral Druid in this case, the damage of your next 3 rips or Ferocious Bite is increased by 25% for their full duration. So this one just plays more on the way you're building your combo points, and it gives you a way to increase the damage by your finishing moves, but you have to alter your combo building points every single time. Maybe instead of having 3 different combo generating abilities, you would have to use 2, so you would use Mangle and Rake, or Rake then Mangle, and then use one of your finishing abilities, just giving you more of a incentive to use certain abilities. Otherwise you just end up spamming Mangle, Ferocious Bite, Mangle, Ferocious Bite. This one would give you more of an incentive to actually use your bleeds as well. But Mangle already does that though by increasing the damage of your bleeds, but I think if you have Mangle, Blood Talons, then Rake, and then you use Ferocious Bite or Rip, you would have such a good rotation for Feral Druids and deal so much more damage as well. So if Feral Druids aren't already overpowered enough, I feel like this one would help quite a bit. Now, while we're talking about the Druids, let's give Balance some love as well, or Boomkins in this case, and talk about this one. This is a talent that we had, once again, I believe it was Warlords. It's a level 100 Balanced Druid talent, and it makes so your Starfires extend the duration of Moonfires by 6 seconds, because those are both arcane, so it just makes sense, and your Wrath extends the duration of Sunfire by 4 seconds as well, and they're both natures, right? So nature spells, in this case, or Wrath, will increase the duration of Sunfire, and also increases the damage over time of your Moonfire and Sunfire by 10%. So first of all, you will deal a lot more damage over time through your damage over time effect. Also it's mana saving, because instead of every 20 seconds having to reapply both Moonfire and Sunfire, you can now just keep spamming Wrath and Starfire, and they will reapply your damage over times. So this one right here, if it's a rune, right, this could be a rune. If this is a rune, it fixes 2 major problems that Boomkins have. Number 1, gives you way more damage output. Number 2, saves your mana, and as a Boomkin, you're lacking damage, and you're lacking the ability to get mana back. We already have like one fix for this through the Wrath talent that we have, or the Wrath rune from Season of Discovery, where you can now cast Wrath and it doesn't cost you any mana, but this one would just fix just about everything if you ask me. And as you can see, both the last 2 that I've talked about, both the Balance of Power and the one affecting Feral Druids, they're more like talents, but I feel like some runes really should be like talents. They shouldn't all be class abilities, there should be something that fixes your class in some way, shape or form. Once again, if you have any other suggestions, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear what you have to say, and what you think we might be seeing in Phase 2, Phase 3 and Phase 4 of the season itself. Either way, we're just about 24 hours away now from the launch, from the first day of playing, and I am very hyped. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. I just smacked the microphone microphone, but yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and hopefully you're enjoying nerding out with me, because I'm just talking about topics that I really enjoy talking about, and things that I'm wondering about as well for the season itself. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like down below, subscribe for more Season of my Discovery content. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you again very soon.